This is the Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast.
Oh no! We suck again!
I'm getting confused. What game are you calling?
I'm calling both games.
It is caught by Kelsey! Touchdown! Kansas City!
Anthony for three. Bang!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast. I am Ruckus.
And I'm Ruckus the Menace.
And today we are talking sports, NFL, MLB, and probably some other stuff too. Without further ado...
My goodness. On this episode, guys, we are recapping week 14. Or is it? Wait, yeah, I think it is 14 that we are recapping here. In week 14 in the NFL season, we will going through another wave of MLB free agents. Our color commentary coming up with our Christmas draft and a recap of the primetime game of Deal or No Deal from last week. Along with bringing about our studs and duds, we now begin Ruckus and the Menace podcast, episode number 36. How are we doing, Ruckus?
Well, as you can tell by my enthusiasm, which was not there really, I am always causing a ruckus.
I know, I had to hijack that one because you ended up doing the same thing that I tried to tell you not to do with using the word today. And basically, because these are episodic, we kind of have to say on this episode. I did not mean to hijack you. I just kind of was like, this is about to fly off the rails in a hurry. Take over.
Well, you know me. All right, so today no, I'm just kidding. A bunch of people probably kicked away, but that's okay. I have been still playing Miles Morales, and recently, a couple days ago, the video game from the creator of Rick and Morty, Justin Roiland, made a game called High on Life, which is pretty good. It's a first-person shooter, cartoony game where it's a shooter, so it's got a story, it's fun, it's hilarious, it's comical. If you're a Rick and Morty fan, you'll probably like it. I enjoy it, and it's got similar humor to Trover Saves the Universe, which was another game made by the co-creator of Rick and Morty, Justin Roiland. As far as watching stuff, I have been watching football and YouTube, but I also caught up on some of the new Rick and Morty episodes from season 6.
All right. As for me, the primary game I've been playing has been Pokemon Violet. I just finished the main story of the game. I'm doing post-game content now. It's been preparing for the wedding, which is now 3 months away, about 3.5 months away. Christmas season activity with Christmas shopping. I have a Christmas party next week. My schedule is going to be going into a full-blown paradigm shift for a week, but I get Christmas Eve and Christmas Day off, so that's nice.
That's nice.
Yep, but I now know that the new wave of Mario Kart courses has come out, and I definitely need to hop on those. I really need to get back into Switch Sports because the golf update is in. And I haven't played it yet, so I kind of want to mess around with a little bit of that before some things. And a major announcement coming up as far as some things that I will be getting into, but I will let you guys know of that on the next episode. So that we actually can promote this thing. It's still kind of working on the project, but on my own terms. But now that we've gotten through the pregame warmups, really the biggest thing, other than that the last of the Whiz Kids and Kurt Simmons, so the Whiz Kids being a famous Phillies group, um, has passed away at the age of 93. World Cup Soccer, the finale has been set. The final two teams, France. First of all, the biggest thing that really came out of this is that we've had an African nation hit the semifinal. The Moroccan national team. Round of 16, they stunned Spain. Quarterfinal, they beat Portugal. They unfortunately were not able to get to the final as they lost to France in the semifinal. I kind of figured as much that was going to be the case because France is outplaying just about everybody. Who will France be facing? Argentina. So it basically has come down to two of the two players that are currently on the front line or could operate on the front line of Paris Saint-Germain in Kylian Mbappe and Lionel Messi. So I almost want to lock in to that one to see if Messi finally wins his World Cup. Or if Kylian Mbappe gets his second.
And makes things messy.
Nah, it's a beautiful game. But Ruckus, as far as the MLB free agents, it looks like a few teams have been really big buyers at this point.
Especially the Giants, man. I didn't see this coming, but Carlos Correa signing a 13-year, $350 million deal with the Giants was a big surprise to me, at least.
It kind of leaves me in thinking, is Brandon Crawford done? Or do they still have him? Because there's something along the lines of Correa and Crawford play the same position.
Couldn't Correa move to third or play second? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe they put Crawford at third.
I would almost want to move Crawford at that point. I would almost move Crawford because, just simply put, that's one of those type of things that now that they have Carlos Correa, I almost want to double check with Brandon Crawford. It looks like Brandon Crawford is still a San Francisco Giant, 35, age 35 season. But it looks like, according to this, like it may not affect him that much.
Yep, and kind of like the same way as how the Braves, Travis d'Arnaud is not affected by the news of getting a all-star catcher in Sean Murphy, as Sean Murphy has been traded to the Braves in a 3-team trade between the Brewers and the Oakland A's. And then in more news, Christian Vasquez signs a 3-year deal worth $30 million with the Minnesota Twins. And then Kodai Senga signs with the Mets for 5 years, $75 million. Kevin Kiermaier signs with the Blue Jays, an AL East rival of the Rays, and is now with the Blue Jays, 1-year deal. Xander Bogaerts surprised probably everyone, signing 11 years, $280 million with the Padres. I thought the length was probably surprising to me.
Oh, you're saying that the length, especially because he was in his age 30 season?
Well, he just seemed like an older player. That's why I was surprised. I was like, damn, okay.
I mean, his rookie year was basically the 2013 series winning team. Because he was just recently called up during the 2013 run. Because I remembered Bogaerts
21, maybe.
He'd have been a 21-year-old at the time third baseman.
Wow.
Yeah, because he was a third baseman at the time when he came up, but then was able to move over.
Yeah.
To the shortstop position. But what more so leads me into this very interesting position with them is that the Padres are loaded. That lineup for the Padres is scary. And I think they let go, and I think Tatis is now probably going to be set up with his walking papers.
Maybe. Um, yeah, I don't know. They'll have to get hot and stay consistent in order to really be dangerous. Because Juan Soto last year didn't have the greatest year, and they put in a lot to get him, and still didn't have the best year with a new team.
But still, that infield is deadly. You got Luke Voigt playing first. At first. Jake Cronenworth at second. Shortstop, but Bogarts will play short. And then you've got Machado playing third.
Yep. And then
that is a...
You got Grisham
and what makes
and
this,
a couple others.
Yeah, Grisham in the outfield. But this year in MLB, it's going to be interesting seeing where players go, especially with the changing of the rules of the shift.
All right.
But it looks like I see that you were saying that the Mets look like they were some major buyers.
Oh, for sure. I was gonna go down the line too.
Yep.
Sean Manaea with 2 years, $25 million with the Giants. Chris Bassett with 3 years, $63 million with the Blue Jays. Brandon Nimmo, as he was talking just now about the Mets, got an extension for 8 years, $162 million. Matt Strahm signed a 2-year, $15 million deal with the Philadelphia Phils. Ross Stripling signs a 2-year deal worth $25 million with the Giants. I added this little upgrade scenario, quote unquote. Aledmus Diaz and Jace Peterson upgrade the infield for the A's, quote unquote. Zach Eflin, a former Philly, is now a Tampa Bay Ray. And speaking of Rays, Mike Zunino is now a Cleveland Guardian, signing a 1-year deal with the Cleveland Guardians. And then my hometown team, the Kansas City Royals, signed Ryan Yarbrough to a 1-year deal worth up to $3 million. And then last but not least,
Noah Syndergaard.
We have Thor, a Marvel Avenger, signing a 1-year, $13 million deal with the Los Angeles Dodgers in Hollywood.
Thor in this case is actually Noah Syndergaard.
Yeah, I know.
This is Noah Syndergaard. This is Noah Syndergaard, not Chris Hemsworth, people. Because Noah Syndergaard is now going back to the West Coast.
Who did it better?
What? Thor? Oh, obviously it's got to be Hemsworth. Because how else would you be able to have Chris Hemsworth go from God bod to Dad bod back to God bod? Then in Thor: Love and Thunder, kind of transitioned himself back into dad mode. All in a matter of about a few movies.
Yeah. All right, and then I'll round off the still candidates that are still in free agency that have not been signed yet. Those include Dansby Swanson, shortstop, Carlos Rodon, a starting pitcher, Andrew Benintendi, Aroldis Chapman, J.D. Martinez, Michael Conforto, Didi Gregorius, Yuli Gurriel, all still remain on the board.
Well, for a lot of people thinking that the Orioles were going to grab a top shortstop, there's only really one left, and it's Dansby. But you have Jorge Mateo, who was actually doing quite fine where he was. So I think if you're the Orioles, I still think you pass on Dansby and you let some of these other teams try for him. Boston won't go for him because they're going to move Trevor Story over. So I think one of Dansby's best spots is probably going to be in the NL, And if he manages to kind of work it out, he might go back to Atlanta.
We will have to see.
Yep.
All
But
right,
I think the fun part of this goes to Carlos Rodon. Didi Gregorius would be a nice little like undercard shortstop, and really Yuli Gurriel. I think we're gonna see maybe a few guys retire, but on top of that, I think we're not gonna be running into a lot. I'll be running into a lot. There's not a lot of action left.
I wouldn't be surprised if the last deals are like around spring training like usual. I don't know if we'll see a bunch of major ones. Kind of because like JD Martinez took a while to get signed by the Red Sox like years ago.
Yeah, that would have been back around like the 2018 run. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. But now we have the simulated games. I improved to 5-9. I ended up with a great run from Jared Goff and the Chiefs defense in making Broncos country
Die.
Yeah, Broncos country, let's die. And apparently looks like I have been eliminated.
I am still in it, but I lost barely, or actually not barely. I lost by like 6 or so points, and I am still ranked 4th. So I am in the quarterfinals this week against the same opponent that I lost to last week. So this will be interesting, but I think it'll be still close. We'll have to see. I learned my lesson not to trash talk at work for this because I thought I had a pretty good advantage, but obviously not. Don't worry, people, if you're listening, it was not that bad of banter. It was more playful trash talk. It was fun. We get along. It's all good. Alright, Spennis, are we ready for our
let's get to the
awesome,
real football.
Clint Eastwood segment on high heat?
Well, we go from that to the high heat. And we go right into recapping week 14. Ruckus, who was your most impressive team this week?
I had to give it to the Buffalo Bills because, man, it was a very rough game for both teams, and the Bills didn't score till near the middle end of the second quarter with the Dawson Knox touchdown after a touchdown pass from Josh Allen to Dawson Knox. And I think they persevered through it, even though the Jets looked like they could have had it a couple times, and for whatever reason, they just didn't get there near the end. Maybe Mike White was to blame for that near the end.
Yep. And I took the Houston Texans for basically being a one-win team. They hung around against Dallas, and they lost it late. But Houston being able to try and do a whole bunch of unique different things just to try and see if something works, and out of their desperation, came up very, very close to tasting sweet victory.
And let's hope they don't do that kind of stuff against the Chiefs this week. Lord help us.
This wouldn't surprise me, but I think with how the Chiefs are prepare for things and Coach Spagnuolo, I'm almost wanting to hang on to that Chiefs defense this week.
They're getting pretty damn good. Man, I loved Willie Gay in that pick six.
Well, the Dustbuster had to suck up the ball and pick up some bunnies along the way as he was running that interception for a touchdown.
Yep.
All right, but who was your most disappointing team?
I like how ironically I said the Chiefs need to watch out for the Texans, but let's be honest. They looked good before it got to halftime, and then they slowly dwindled down before halftime started. And my most disappointing team is my own Kansas City Chiefs. Because how do you screw up that badly and give up 3 interceptions to a. I mean, yes, granted, the defense for the Broncos is way better than the offense of the Broncos. But come on, man! Like, you're trying to get to the Super Bowl for the attempt for like the third or fourth time. At least give a damn about getting there instead of just being like a bunch of Harlem Globetrotters. Yes, I said it, but hear me out. If you actually start trying and don't try to be all fancy and screw things up and cost games, you have a good shot. Anyways, Spennis, what was yours?
My most disappointing team was the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans, because they basically let the Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence just tear them up. They were up 14-7, and then Jacksonville goes and scores 29 unanswered points. For a team who is supposed to be contending for a postseason spot, this is not a good look. And I don't think it's as much of a runaway in that AFC South as people think it is, because Jacksonville can chase. The Jaguars' next few games on their schedule consist of, granted, the Cowboys, not fun. The Jets, not fun. The Texans, a winnable game. And the Titans. So the Jaguars will see improvement, but they didn't do a great enough job in the middle of the season to really mess around and become a playoff team. But I think the Tennessee Titans definitely underestimated their opponent. And it showed. Who's your most impressive player?
My most impressive player this week is Zonovan Knight, also known as Bam Knight of the New York Jets. He rushed he had 17 attempts for 71 yards, and his average running try was 4.2 yards, and he had 1 touchdown, and the longest run was 13 yards.
I had Jared Goff as my most impressive player this week, as Jared Goff had a very effective game against a very talented Vikings team. Goff finished 27 of 39 for 330 yards, 3 tutties, no picks. And I will actually go ahead and bring up the recap of the primetime game at this point, because Jared Goff was my deal or no deal quarterback. Due to Kyle Allen not playing, Ruckus was allowed to use Davis Mills, who scored the most points for Houston that week, as his quarterback. And Ruckus, I ended up taking that one 34-5. So it was kind of not close.
Kinda.
No.
You mean kinda? Come on, man. Just say it how it is, man. I know I caused ruckus around here, but shit.
Oh, now that we've kind of gotten through like our impressings and disappointments, we now go to the Eastwood segment, the good, the bad, and the ugly of this week.
Wah, wah, wah. You're welcome. Alright, so my good this week is, speaking of Cowboys, he's not a cowboy, but it sounds kind of like a Midwestern-y slang. But this man is pretty purdy, as in Brock Purdy did so good he made his old man cry some purty tears. And also, with this make a parody for Sweet Cherry Pie because he made his old man cry.
I don't know if that necessarily was completely warranted in this case, Ruckus.
Purdy did so good, he made his old man cry. Sweet cherry pie. I don't know. See, like, folks, this is me causing a ruckus. All right, Spennis, go ahead.
No, it's you. It's you trying to use an '80s rock reference about something that clearly had nothing to do with an NFL quarterback.
Boo! Spennis is ruining my joke. Boo!
But then the point you had the Mr. Irrelevant, angle kind of right there, waiting right there in your lap.
I'm not gonna use something
Mr. Relevant showing that he could be relevant.
I'm
it's
not
like
gonna
Mr. Irrelevant being a relevant quarterback. Missed opportunities.
Bro,
but then I think
no. I did that because I don't care what an overpaid analyst says about Mr. Irrelevant or what Todd Bowles or someone else said about him being Mr. Irrelevant. He's pretty good, okay? It's in his last name, gosh darn it.
You realize that that's because of his draft position, right?
Either way, don't care.
The reason why I was saying that is because the reason why we were going with the Mr. Irrelevant title was because he was the last draft pick of this year's draft. So they give him that title, they roast him with the Lozman Trophy and all this other stuff. But now he's showing it, okay, he maybe wasn't worth, or he was worth a lot more than what teams saw. And there's potential for a true diamond in the rough that San Francisco has, that this might really put some pressure on Trey Lance.
Kind of sounds familiar, doesn't it? One of the last picks in the draft does pretty good.
No, but there's a difference between with you saying that and trying to talk about Tom Brady. But then this guy was actually the last pick. It's a difference between being one of the later round picks and being the very last pick. There's levels to this, Ruckus.
I mean, he also wasn't really looked as good either, like Purdy. So if you think of it that way, he couldn't run very well because he's a quarterback, and no one really looked at him as a good pick. So that's why I was saying that. But let's move on.
But
Please.
I'm gonna say this: the biggest thing that, other than that, a lot of games had a lot of scoring, which made for a lot of entertainment value. The end results of these games resulted in really both conferences having a playoff hunt that just got real with 4 games left.
Playoffs?
Yes, I have done the unthinkable.
The playoffs?
According to Jim Mora, and I have mentioned the word playoffs.
Playoffs? Playoffs? Playoffs. Man. Gotta use a big
because
P
there
word.
are teams winning games. All right, Ruckus. What was kind of your not so good?
All right. So my bad was the Cowboys and how they, let's say, handled their situation with the Texans this week. Because they barely won at home against the Texans. And my God, it looked ugly. And not in the good, bad, and ugly way, just bad. Alright.
Yeah. I'm going to say I think my bad is just simply just the lackluster effort that seemed to come about, or actually, better yet, I'm gonna say the bad is Seattle kind of laying an egg. I think that the Seahawks basically in that loss to Carolina may have put a lot of pressure on them to win the next few games just to even stand a fighting chance at a playoff spot. They have the 49ers. They're the 49ers tomorrow night, the Chiefs on Christmas Eve, the Jets on New Year's Day, and then the LA Rams. So the Seattle Seahawks kind of have almost played themselves out of the race in a particular way with how they just laid an egg against the Carolina Panthers. And what was your ugly?
Not ugly was Russell Wilson's cooking. Just kidding. Well, I mean, that could be ugly.
Broncos country. Let's fry.
So, my ugly this week is Russell Wilson gets cooked to a crisp with a welt left on his forehead. Head on, applied directly to the forehead.
Broncos country. My eye.
Broncos country.
Oh.
I have gotten knocked out.
It doesn't quite work that way. you gotta end it with like something that goes with ride or something along that type of
My
thing.
fellow
Here.
Americans.
The ugly I had was major quarterback injuries this week that kind of just came out. Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Denver, San Francisco, with dealing with a brief injury to Brock Purdy. The Jets with Mike White taking a nice shellacking on a legal hit. And then Atlanta now. And then Atlanta now with Marcus Mariota having to go under the knife. So
I thought it was just because he was as a backup for Ritter. I thought they were just giving more faith or time to Ritter.
No, Mariota actually had to undergo a procedure. That's why, because it said because I just looked up and saw something that said Mariota. And Mariota had to take some time to actually. Well, and then also I did not mention it in this, but also another major one that was involved, Kyler Murray. Also, Kyler Murray getting injured, and his actually was a torn ACL.
Yeah, I like how everybody was like, "Oh, it might be minor," and then it was like, "Actually, we lied." Torn ACL. When I saw the video for that, I was hoping. Part of me was imagining him just like having a bone exposed on the field, kind of like that Louisville college basketball game when that happened. I was like, okay, what actually happened?
Like, oh snap!
Turns out Kyler Murray wasn't playing Call of Duty this whole time. He was playing Pokemon Snap.
Oh, that was bad. That was That was horrible. That was horrible. That doesn't even work.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
I wish I could just go and just Thanos snap and all of your bad joke, all the amount of bad jokes you had were gone by half.
Well, then there would be no Ruckus There would just be a menace.
I didn't say anything about losing you in all this.
I mean, that's what happens with the Thanos snap.
Bad joke. I just said the bad jokes.
Well, that's part of my personality, is my crappy jokes. That could be good or bad.
Oh boy, what are we gonna do here?
I'm sorry.
What was the best game this week?
It was the Jets and Beals for me because, man, that was a close game.
I am taking the one-point game this week, but I will explain a little bit more as to why later on in the pod. What was your bold, or what was the worst game for you this week, Ruckus?
I was about to say, we'll say that right after these messages. Just kidding, we're not doing that. Worst game this week. I have the Texans and the Cowboys, because, my lord, that was bad. For both teams, at least.
There were games that scored lower. There were blowouts. Dallas didn't look great until the end. But for me, my worst game this week, I went with Eagles Giants because the Giants clearly were not on the same plane as the Eagles. Like, they were not on the level. I don't even think they were on the level below the Eagles. And what is your bold take, Ruckus?
My bold take is the Chiefs will get a bye in the playoffs, but their divisional round will be against Cincinnati.
So with this, you would have the Chiefs getting the number 1 overall seed and stealing it away from Buffalo, just to have them play the number 4 seed, which you think will be the Cincinnati Bengals.
Correct.
I think the Bengals could seed higher, honestly. I think the Bengals honestly have a chance to seed higher, but that would be if and only if they get by the Ravens. And I think with the Ravens in the position that they're at right now, I think Cincinnati could leapfrog right into the 3 seed and be able to actually play away from the Chiefs if they were to win the bye.
Here's my reasoning for this too, because we faced the Bills in the championship game a year or two ago, and then the next year we faced them right in the divisional, and we all know how that went. And then Cincinnati was in the AFC championship game, so I have a feeling it's gonna like domino effect and be that. But anything can happen. That's why I had it as a bold take.
But my bold take here is that Jalen Hurts will win the NFL MVP, or at least it is his to lose. Jalen Hurts is throwing the ball well. He's running the ball well. He's leading the best offense in the league. He's leading the most versatile offense in the league. He's kind of been playing like as if he's got it all. And now it's just a matter of, will the votes hold up? And what is your burning question this week, Ruckus?
All right. My burning question this week is: will the Chiefs' adjustments be enough to propel them higher for a Super Bowl run?
I'm gonna say it really depends on what kind of on the outside of what they're doing kind of does. I think it does not affect anything that they have going on with potentially Buffalo, as they'll be one of those two teams that are kind of playing for that high spot in the division. So yes, I feel like the Chiefs could, but I think there's going to be something that's going to hold them back.
Yeah, I think their offense probably holds them back just a little bit. Besides the defense, I think the defense has definitely improved a little bit. Yes, we faced a really crappy offensive team in the Broncos last week, but if they keep up what they're doing, I think they have a better shot than they did earlier in the year.
Okay. And my burning question is that with a lot of the records and races tightening up in the conferences, is there a sleeper team in either conference that could make the playoffs that is not among the top 7 currently? Now, just
what if
to kind of
Carolina got there?
well, Carolina is currently sitting outside the top 7, already owning the tiebreaker over Atlanta. But their best shot is to try and get through on the divisional against Tom Brady. So the chances for them might not be as easily along, but it's not out of the equation. I think that there's a few notable shifting games that could affect a lot of things, and that includes the Commanders Giants game, Green Bay, whether they end up doing so, Detroit, who's chasing, Seattle, who's chasing to get in. So there's a lot of teams hungry for a win in the NFC. The AFC, on the other hand, it's a little limited, and the only major swing game that has some major leverage is Titans Chargers. And speaking of some of these major games that we have coming up in the film room, Ruckus ended up with a not so great record to kind of lead himself a little bit closer to that 500 teeter. But the first game is San Francisco versus Seattle.
I'm going to have to say the Niners on this one.
I think the 49ers right now are playing their best ball. And that, to me, regardless of who is in that 12th man, it makes for a very interesting turn of events, especially if the 49ers win that game.
Yep. What do you think about the Miami and Buffalo game?
I'm taking Buffalo this time around. This game is a lot different. It's now at Ralph Wilson, or well, formerly known as Ralph Wilson Stadium. It's in Buffalo, so it's going to be colder this time around.
And
So
how does Miami fare in cold weather? Not so much.
And how do tables fare when they're dealt with in Bill's Mafia? Not at all.
Dude, the Aflac plan would not be cheap over there for those tables in Buffalo. I tell you what.
Yep. All right, so now the next game we have is the Detroit Lions versus the New York Jets. Wait, Ruckus, we just basically agreed on every single game.
You know, when you're right, you're right.
It's like great minds think alike, as Ruckus and I both have picked the Lions over the Jets, the Chargers over the Titans, and the Commanders over the Giants. Now we go into our probably one of our most fun segments that we'll have. We have the Christmas Hodgepodge Draft. So our question is, for these Christmas traditions, what are we selecting? So round one. So the first round, we have Christmas movies. And you get to pick two.
All right, so my two movies. One of them's got to be Elf with Will Ferrell, and then the second one. Let me think on it. What are your two?
The first one that I'm going to do is the Arnold Schwarzenegger 1990s classic, Jingle All the Way. And then the second one that I'm going to take is probably the most very interesting concept of a Christmas related product at all. I'm going to take a Christmas Disney Plus series, or at least possibly in consideration. I am taking the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special.
I still haven't seen that. So for my second movie, I'm gonna have to say The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Movie though.
Well, yes, there's Halloween elements of it at the beginning, but then goes into Christmas. Hence, The Nightmare Before Christmas. If you want me to put that as an honorable mention instead, I'll do that. So instead of that, because apparently Spence had to be a Mr. Scrooge, bah humbug
Like,
to
wait,
you.
I'm just like, is it a Halloween movie or is it a Christmas movie?
I mean, is Die Hard considered a Christmas movie? Because technically yes, but actually no.
No, no, Die Hard is not a Christmas movie.
I mean, I'd beg to differ, but anyways, my second movie would have to be a Muppets Christmas Carol because
Okay, yeah,
bah
that's
humbug.
a good pick. It's probably one of the few like Ebenezer Scrooge type things that you find that makes complete sense. Okay, your favorite Christmas treat.
It's probably gonna be chocolate pretzels, like those pretzel sticks with like the dipped chocolate on them, maybe with caramel, maybe not with caramel, but pretty damn good.
I'm going to go with the ginger snap, or at least some sort of ginger/gingerbread. um, because what we do is we do ginger molasses cookies, and they've got the granulated sugar on the top, and they are really good. It's like my mom made them small enough this time around that it's like, okay, if I end up popping too many of them, it's gonna be like gonna be like crack. It's like they're good. Okay, so round three, the most annoying thing about Christmas time. And no, we both have ended up disagreeing, or both of them have decided not to count putting up decorations or playing music too early.
I might sound like a Scrooge on this one, but putting up the ornaments on the Christmas tree, even though it's probably one of the more important ones, but honestly, I'm just there for the presents and then I'm gone. Just saying, I'm probably a Scrooge on that one, but it was either me saying that or um getting two identical presents from like two different like relatives, or like, or maybe that's a little bit too rude, but um I don't know. Maybe that, or kind of like the movie Christmas Story being played on a marathon on TNT or TBS, or just watching that every
Yeah.
year. It gets old.
Yeah. I do think that the TBS thing that they do with playing A Christmas Story for 24 hours straight is overrated.
You'll shoot your eye out watching that, I swear.
Yeah, but not unless somebody was triple dog daring somebody to watch the that special for that amount of time straight.
Yeah, might as well have a
But
popsicle while you're at it.
for me, my most annoying thing about Christmas time, it's sad enough that it's gonna have to go into the music for me. Mariah Carey's "All I Want for Christmas Is You" and "Last Christmas" by Wham. Yes, I put two Christmas songs that seem to be cliche and being played every single time during the Christmas season. Those two songs, once they're played, they are earworm, they are hard to get out of your head, and they are so annoying to listen to, regardless of the time of year. But it comes out at its worst during Christmas time. So, yes, that is an annoying thing.
I
Now,
don't
for
blame
this
you.
one here, now for the next one here, now that I've kind of gotten into music, Christmas songs you enjoy, we're picking three and name it. And if you can come up with a good artist that does them, put it out there.
Here. I'm going to. There's one that There's a couple I like. One of them is Feliz Navidad. That's probably one of my favorite ones because it's just a
Yeah.
random derpy one. And then there was one from Frank Sinatra. I was tuned into Goodfellas today, and
Was it Sinatra or was it Crosby?
because I think it it was the one where it's like, please have a very Merry Christmas, and then last one is the one where it's called Christmas, but I forgot the name of the group that did it. But it's like, I think it's this choir band of some sort, but they go Christmas. Oh, I think it's Darlene Love
Yeah.
was the for that one, and that was played on one of the scenes in Goodfellas. But it's not because of Goodfellas; it's because it's a good ass song, and it's not overplayed all the time. And also an honorable mention because my family would hate me if I didn't put this in the list because I grew up with this as a child, but Osty the O-Man, also known as Frosty the Snowman. But when I was little, I called it Osty the O-Man because I didn't know what words were.
Didn't know what words were. Okay. For me, the first one that really sticks out is Bing Crosby's version of Silver Bells, where you get the crooning through the chorus.
It's Christmas time in the city, and then you get the ring-a-ling.
Yeah, like his
Hear them ring.
yeah, like kind of like that little bit. You get that, and it works out the best. Um, the second one that I'm gonna really roll with here is the 12 Days of Christmas by Reliant K. And the interesting things are is that on like the genre changes like 5 or 6 times. During 5 and 9, they ask the question of what a partridge in a pear tree are.
So, did
But
you ever play Payday 2?
I did not.
There's they have a soundtrack, and one of the songs is the 12 Days of Payday, and it's just all themed around that game. But it's a fun one to listen to if you have a good sense of humor, or yeah, it's pretty good.
And then my last one, I gotta due to my faith roots, I gotta take one. I gotta take one for sure, and it is Mary. Did you? I'm gonna take Mary. Did you know? But the Zach Williams version, which which is a very like bluesy country kind of sound that the drums are not over, like they're not overdone, like it's not overdone. But it is one of the more popular songs of that particular time.
Also, honorable mention, just as a whole, not for one or the other. "Baby It's Cold Outside" is a good one too.
Were you really being serious about that?
Um, Somewhat. I just know it's a very famous one, even though it's more romantic versus actually
Yeah, but
being.
but it kind of has a bad connotation too.
I mean, it was early. It was uh later in the times. It wasn't probably PC now, but
Yeah,
it's an
it's
iconic
definitely not.
song.
It's definitely not now. It's
Yeah,
definitely not now.
yeah.
Definitely not now. I wouldn't have, I was not putting that anywhere near. But
Mm.
I know that I was but I know some of my notable honorable mentions would have consisted of Bruce Springsteen's version of Santa Claus is Coming to Town.
That's a good one.
The Michael Jackson one's pretty good too, but I like the Springsteen one a little more.
I can just imagine him
Um,
going hee hee like in the middle of like
no,
like
oh no, it wasn't even like it wasn't even like Michael Jackson in his like adult years. It was Michael Jackson when he was a kid. Like before the he and the crotch grabs and the moonwalk. This was back
Shauna.
when it was but this was back when it was ABC, like ABC 1 2 3
No,
1 2 3
Jackson
Michael
5.
Jackson. Yeah, it was Jackson 5. Like it was Jackson 5, but you could clearly tell that the one who was doing all the leading there was Michael Jackson. That the lead was Michael.
Yeah.
Um, but then you also gotta enjoy like some more of like the Bing Crosby type of things. But then another one that's like completely, and then Trans Siberian Orchestra obviously does a lot of stuff too.
Oh
But
yeah, that's good too.
but August Burns Red, the Carol of the Bells, it's all instrumental, but it is like it takes the Christmas concept and just turns it metal. Is kind of the best way to describe it. Okay. Round 5, A Christmas Memory.
Man, there's many of them, but I remember this one vividly. And it also is related to our sports podcast actually. So, do you remember this toy back in the day that I don't know if it was like really advertised on like ESPN or anything, but there was this Sports Center themed Papa Shot slash
Yeah, I remembered it existing. I
yeah,
remembered it existing.
I just don't I remember playing on it a lot, but I also don't couldn't recall if they had a bunch of commercials for it because I don't remember the commercials. I just remember having it, and that thing was a lot of fun. Like they had like little footballs you could throw, you could like do shoot hoops, you could kick a soccer ball, you could putt a golf thing. I liked it for the Papa Shot. That thing was cool. Other than that, that was a good memory. Getting that PS2 was a good memory too. A lot of good memories, and
Yeah.
I like to thank my parents and Santa for making that happen.
It's one thing for that. It's like for me, I think the one that really sticks out was quite another. Like about 4 years ago, I my grandparents were still living in Indiana at the time, and my parents were planning on going out to Indiana for Christmas that year. However, I was at home. I was going to be likely at home at the time, but I all of a sudden said, "I'm like, hey, I'll be able to go." But they never told my grandma, who passed away last year, that I was coming. So Christmas Eve, I work 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. I get back to the house. I get all of my stuff kind of packed up, all the presents that I had going with me packed up. And my sister takes me to the airport. So I am flying out from Baltimore to Indianapolis on Christmas Eve to surprise my grandmother for Christmas. And that was probably one of the best things I really could have done, because it was during a time where life for me was hard, like not quite as great, and just kind of needing that time with really needing to be with kind of family at that moment was more so what mattered. But I mean, as far as like getting like major things, I do recall the Christmas memories of having a pool table in the house, getting my Nintendo 64, getting a PS2 one year, um, getting a laptop, like a few different like Christmas memories along with it. And then also like numerous tickets to like ball games such as like Skids Eagles, um, Wizards games.
I got tickets to
So
the Raiders Chiefs whenever it was the 2018 season or
yeah, I
2019
did.
season, and
Yeah,
it
I was.
was that was a fun experience too. Shout out
Yeah, I
to
did.
my sister for that one.
Yeah, but but I did. But I did Washington, Philadelphia one year. Washington, Philadelphia one year, just simply because of that. Unfortunately, it was the season that Alex Smith broke his leg. But
Oh, I was about to ask you how far that was in because I didn't know if you got to see Kirk Cousins ever play.
no, it was the year that Alex Smith took over at quarterback, and we traded for. It was the year Kirk Cousins left for Minnesota. We traded for Alex Smith, and Alex Smith then had that major fracture. Um, but round 6, the Christmas activity.
Um, as far as Christmas activities, it's either snoring after having a good meal for Christmas dinner or lunch from the old folks, or really, it's me waiting for opening presents. To be honest, I feel like that's the bigger activity versus just opening the presents, because it takes like 5 to 10 minutes to open presents and be like, oh crap, I got this, or cool, I got that. Whereas waiting during like the fallback period where you get an hour back for sleep or whatnot, and you're thinking, oh man, did I get this present or that present, and then realizing you still have a ways to go on Christmas Eve to wait for it. Because in my scenario, it was like we opened presents like around 7 or 8 a.m. But that night, I just couldn't sleep for the life of me. And so, like, even if I took melatonin, I still couldn't sleep. I was that excited. I was just like, oh my god, oh my god. But, like, I don't know. But the cop out answer for me is definitely opening presents and then playing with them and then and then pretending that my family doesn't exist for a day or so, or later that night, just enjoying whatever I'm messing with or what I have, just chilling.
For me, I'm definitely a little different now. The excitement of Christmas is one thing. Now I just am like, let me sleep a little bit.
So you
but
had a silent night.
uh,
Holy night.
but I'm gonna say the Christmas activity that kind of I was going for, the white elephant gift exchange. Which sometimes those white elephant gift exchanges can be cutthroat.
Yeah, especially if there's an
Let's
iPod involved, like in The Office.
Oh yeah. But if you properly set the limits and kind of make things interesting all at the same time, oh man, white elephant's gonna be fun.
I had
Especially
a Secret Santa and marching band, and that was interesting for those couple of years that I
oh
did it.
yeah. Oh yeah, I had one too. I still have two set of Captain America glasses that I never opened out of the box
There
from
you
a
go.
Secret Santa gift. I chose to never open them. I just chose to never take them out.
They could be worth millions one day.
Uh, Probably not, but I mean, it was still like something that kind of was like, these are too nice to just all of a sudden have the dishwasher ruin them. But then the last round, what is the important item for the spread on your Christmas dinner?
For me, it's because this also happens on Thanksgiving, but it's more pivotal for Christmas. The noodles, my grandma's noodles that are like egg noodles, so like stuff that you would put like on like chicken noodle soup. Those are good. Also, uh, I don't know, like mashed potatoes. That's probably a cop out. Casseroles, like green bean casseroles, uh, ch- cheesy corn, uh, a whole plethora of things, I guess you could say.
It would ultimately depend who I'm with, but I know that for the breakfast spread, it would be the toast and chip beef gravy. However, or the chip beef gravy and a biscuit. However, if it's the dinner spread, I gotta go. I mean, if it's with my dad's side of the family, of course it's gotta be the mac and cheese. Gotta be the mac and cheese because it'll be the only way that my dad will ever eat it. But it is so good. Um, other than that, other than that, stuffing. Like just stuff. Like I know that that's like a Thanksgiving thing too, but you can't go wrong. But even though we've now gotten through our Christmas draft, we now go to our stud and dud of the week, and we're wrapping this thing up. Ruckus,
All
who you
right.
got?
So for my stud this week, I got Derek McKinnon because the man with a plan did some stuff. He got 2 touchdowns, and with 7 receptions, he got a total of 112 yards, and averaged 16 yards, and the length of one of them was 56 yards. He also had 6 attempts running with 22 yards, but that's not super impressive. But his main thing was his wide receiver carries. Even a no-look pass reception from Patrick Magic Mahomes the second.
I'll just say that it none of this involved running into his right guard.
Yep, it turns out it takes a little bit of a wily to get that to happen, but that'll be another little wily.
Okay. As for me, my honorable mention comes from the reason why the Raiders Rams for me was the best game. And that is for LA Rams quarterback Baker Mayfield for doing the incredible job of understanding a game plan at the last possible minute to get a victory over the Raiders by pretty much only being able to go through one walkthrough after arriving in LA on Tuesday. Absolutely only one walkthrough was all it took. I mean, was it a great game? No. Was it a win in spite of that? Absolutely.
I think it also helps that he had some decent receivers. Yes, they didn't have Cooper Cup, but they had Van Jefferson, they had Tutu Atwell, you had Higbee back, and a couple others. But man, I think Baker Mayfield did as good as he could for what he had, compared to what he would have had at Carolina, which is not a whole lot.
But that's just my honorable mention. My actual stud this week is for Washington Capitals wing Alexander Ovechkin. Ovi for getting career goal 800 as part of a hat trick against the Chicago Blackhawks. Ovi becomes first the first to reach the feat with a single franchise, of which he still holds the NHL best for it. He only trails Gordie Howe, which on the next goal he ties him, and Wayne Gretzky for all-time goals scored. So the reason why my stud is there for Ovechkin is for getting goal number 800. But there are all sorts of different milestones, like number of seasons with 20 goals in a season and all that. This could be very interesting to see how Ovechkin does in his chase for Gretzky's record. And that is why I chose it. And what's your dud this week, Ruckus?
All right, so being the IT web nerd and just tech nerd I am, as many of my folks and friends know, I noticed something that was a very funny bug on the part whenever me and Spennis were actually doing the writing for the show this week. I noticed that for the Lions Vikings stats, that a former member of the Lions, now a Viking, T.J. Hawkinson, his stat line was showing on the Lions side of the stat line instead of the Vikings. Which, to be fair, the NFL, I mean, whoever was writing the or doing like the stat line for that probably didn't forgot to like move him over to the Vikings. But at the same time, the web developer or whoever did the coding or whoever does like the widget work for the stat line for that, they made a big oopsie, and that's my dud for this week is NFL.com showing T.J. Hawkinson as a Lion instead of a Viking, confusing the shit out of probably everybody.
But my dud this week goes to, granted that this is on Undisputed on
Skip,
FS1.
skip,
It goes to Skip
skip.
Bayless for taking what seemed like a very personal jab at Shannon Sharp about saying Tom Brady was better than him because Sharp's career ended at 35 instead of 45. I'm sorry, Skip. This is comparing apples to oranges. This ended up in a heated exchange that Sharp surely had to have shown a massive amount of restraint from opening up the can.
Skip Bailey just looks like he has a punchable face anyways, so it's kind of like,
Yeah.
what
I mean, there is that, but it is Skip Bayless.
Ski.
But Ruckus, go ahead and take us out.
All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to the Ruckus and Menace Sports Podcast. I am Ruckus.
And I'm Ruckus the Menace.
Thank you for watching. And also, I forgot to mention at the beginning of the show, rest in peace to Mike Leach of Mississippi State.
Yes.
As he passed away, and we forgot to put that in the honorable or in the show notes.
Yep.
But also, I hope everyone has a very Merry Christmas, as obviously we will, well, actually not obvious, but now we're telling you, we will not have a episode next week on Wednesday, as we will be taking a week off, but we will be back after Christmas.
Yeah, that week off for Christmas is my bad, but that also is kind of because a lot of things were kind of getting packed up, and not because I'm moving, but because a lot of things are kind of getting like jam packed together, and it involves me also taking a little bit of a shift in work for next week. So
we need more personal time is the bottom line.
Well, but it gives us time for us to wish you and yours a Merry Christmas. And we will be back in 2 weeks for our year in review episode.
Tune in for that, and also thank you for listening, and again, Merry Christmas, and Spennis, have a Merry Christmas, and take care of yourself, my friend.
Yep, same to you.
All right, peace out.
Deuces.